remember that you are unique and that you have your voice. No one else does. AI doesn't have it. Only you has it. And so I think is to hang on to that and find that, whatever it is, and try and make sure that's in your story, that it's not a flat, it's a 3D story, not a flat story. And it's got an essence of yourself in it.
Hello, welcome back to Rights for Women. I am so excited to be back starting a brand new season of Rights for Women, which is called On the Convo Couch. Long-time listeners will know that we've always had a Convo Couch, not always referred to in every episode, but the reason that I've decided to call the new season On the Convo Couch is because they're not going to be book-based conversations. They're going to be author-based conversations. So just as today's On the Convo Couch is with Tricia Stringer, each fortnight, I will bring you an interview with an author who has either been requested by a listener, someone who I feel listeners would benefit from hearing from, or someone who I just basically want to have a chat with about writing. There is so much that we can learn about the writing life and about the writing and publishing industry, not just from really experienced authors like Tricia Stringer, who is my guest today, but also from authors who maybe have taken the indie path, maybe authors who only have 1 or 2 books out, but they can still share their experiences, or even aspiring authors who are not yet published. So we're going to have a range of different authors on the Convo Couch joining me each fortnight. And I'd love to hear from you as to who you would like to hear a conversation with. And you're going to be eavesdropping on that conversation. And I'm very happy for you to send questions in as we meet each guest and chat to them on the Convo Couch as well. A couple of other things that I'm going to be doing each episode is telling you about some new releases. But I also wanted to let you know about a couple of things that I have coming up, just in case you are interested in doing some workshops or coming along to see me at a panel somewhere. What do I have coming up? In July, I am doing the fiction feedback course through Writing New South Wales, where writers can send in, I think it's a couple of thousand words at a time. You will get feedback from me. You'll also get feedback from your peers. It's a great way of putting your feet in the water if you haven't before received feedback, or if you are used to getting feedback. It's also a great way to just get a different perspective from some different people. So fiction feedback, Writing New South Wales, starting in July. You can look up their website, writingnewsouthwales.org, for more details on that. I am also doing my Turn Up the Tension course in November via Writing New South Wales. I don't think the details are up about that yet. So if you're interested in a longer course, really focusing on getting tension and suspense into your writing, that one will be coming up later in the year. I will be doing a workshop at the Northern Beaches Readers Festival in September, and I'm pretty sure that one's going to be around getting emotion into your writing and creating empathy with your protagonist so that your reader can connect with your main character. And in July, I am not doing a workshop, but I'm actually excited to be on a panel at the South Coast Writers Festival on the 25th of July, where I will be chatting to Courtney Pepinell and Meredith Jaffe. So that's all coming up. On the writing front, I am very excited to say that I'm just about ready to send my manuscript off for the very final stage before I send it to my publisher at Vinci Books, and that is it's going off for a proofread. Hopefully sending that off tomorrow. I've been through a double editing process, a structural edit and a copy edit with the fabulous Alexandra Nalos. She's an amazing editor and has just really gotten what I've been doing in this manuscript. This is a long time manuscript for me. I've been not working on it avidly, but it's been 5 years in the process of coming together, probably a little bit more even. So I'm really excited to be getting that off. And this week I also sent off, having done the final proofread on the novella for Christmas, which is called Love on the Menu, and that's going to be in A Country Pub Christmas, which is coming out in October with HQ, our annual Christmas anthology. This is the 4th year that I've been doing this with Penelope Janu, Stella Quinn, myself, and this year Alyssa Callan is coming back into the fold. So we're very excited about the stories that we've put together for this year's Christmas anthology, and it was so good to get that one sent off and know that is all done. So, yeah, after tomorrow, hopefully this will go off to the proofreader. Then it will be a final read through of Because You're Mine before it goes off to Vinci. And then I'm hoping that it will be coming out around September, October, but I'm not exactly sure yet. So I will keep you posted. And before I get to this week's guest, let me tell you about the new releases that I wanted to share with you. This one is a newish release, and it is from Casey Nott, 5 Stages of Grace. Casey is published by Fabulous Hawkeye, who are doing some amazing books, Hawkeye. I'm really impressed with the books that they're putting out. This one is right up my alley. I haven't got to reading it yet, but it is very quickly coming to the top of my list now that my edits are done. So the blurb on the back says, "What do you do when life almost gives you everything you've ever wanted, then threatens to take it all away?" Grace Granger has one dream: to become a mother. It's all she and her husband can think about. But when a small lump on her neck turns out to be cancer, the life Grace was building, the marriage, the family, the future, becomes a battle for survival. So that one sounds like it will be a really moving, riveting read, 5 Stages of Grace by Casey Nott. Another book that came out just this week, happy publication to Anthea Hodgson, The Palace of Lost Virtue. I remember talking to Anthea about this book a couple of years ago when she just was starting it, and it just sounds amazing. It's an absolutely beautiful looking book. Look at that. Gorgeous. They've done such a great job of the cover, front and back. I won't read you the whole blurb, but it says, "The bush keeps its secret and its gold." In 1898, Marigold Harrington arrives on the goldfields of Western Australia with conviction in her heart. The daughter of a prospector and a proud member of the Christian Women's Temperance Union, she dreams of rescuing women the gold rush has forgotten, those trapped in the shadows of brothels and bars. There's a second main character, Pansy Arlington, who presides over the Palace of Pleasure. So I reckon that's going to be a great read from Anthea, and I can't wait to dive into that one as well. And a much-awaited book by my very good friend and writing buddy, Penelope Janu, Out of the Blue. I've been really keen to dive into this story. I've read tiny little bits and pieces of this as Pen was writing it. But as someone who has recently been to Antarctica, I am really keen to read this one. It's still got Pen's lovely country small town flavour and definitely romance. But part of it is also set in Antarctica. So I'll just read you a little bit of the blurb. Flick Atherton loves the country towns where she lives, her work with migratory birds, and the bond she shares with her late brother's daughter. The last thing she needs is a man telling her what to do, particularly the arrogant, frighteningly competent Norwegian Air Force pilot Sebastian Thorsen. When she accepts an assignment in the sub-Antarctic, her biggest challenge isn't the sub-zero temperatures or her long-held fears, it's Sebastian. Pen's books are always a joy to read. They're beautifully written, and the landscape is also going to be an absolute stunner in this one. So race out and grab yourself a copy of Out of the Blue. I'm sure that you will not be disappointed. Now, on to another best-selling Australian author, and that is this week's guest on the Convo Couch, Tricia Stringer. I won't tell you too much about Tricia because she is going to tell us about how she got into writing. She has a background in teaching. She was a children's author, but she is now the best-selling author of, wait for it, 18 titles, including her rural romance novels, some historical fiction titles, and her reality fiction titles, including Table for Eight, The Family Inheritance, Head for the Hills, and her most recent book, The Road Trip. Tricia is just going from strength to strength, and it's fantastic to see someone who has just been really building and building their career, really growing her readership. The Road Trip actually hit 30,000 in sales, which is absolutely amazing. And she has a new book coming out, which she will tell you about in this chat. But this is such a great chat with Tricia where we cover so many things about the writing life, her process, her inspirations, how she feels the publishing industry has changed over the years. And there is also a little bonus episode for paid Substack subscribers, which will be emailed out to you in the next day or two, and you will find that in your inbox if you are a paid subscriber. Thank you so much for joining me on the Convo Couch as I chat to Tricia. And please, the best way for people to hear about the podcast is through reviews, recommendations. And if you enjoy an episode, it would be great if you could pop it up on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it is that you share your love of reading and podcasts and other things. And yeah, just thank you so much for returning to the Convo Couch and being here with me as I chat to guests on Rights for Women. Tricia Stringer, it is such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. The podcast has been going for, since 2017, and I don't think I've ever had you on.
Once, I think. Yeah, a long time ago.
It was way back. Okay.
Yeah, it happened, yeah.
Really good to catch up. And this is our new kind of Convo Couch series. So it's basically just shooting the breeze with writers and finding out things about you and your writing life. And of course, we have a lot of listeners who are aspiring or emerging authors. I like to pick my guests' brains about their writing process and things like that. And yeah, anything else that comes up.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's nice to be here, Pam. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks so much, Trish. And we were just talking before I started recording about the fact you're actually in country South Australia, so about 2 hours away from Adelaide.
Yes, Wallaroo, I am.
And you're on a property there?
No, we live in the town of Wallaroo, quite close to the beach. So, yeah, nice beachside place. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's coastal.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, York Peninsula, which is nearly all coast. Not much
Wow.
land, lots of coast. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've only ever been to Adelaide a couple of times and up into the Barossa. So I haven't really seen other parts of South Australia. Yeah.
Very nice country.
Lovely. And what's happening? We're just going to start with a bit of a chat about what's happening with you and your writing at the moment.
Oh, very busy as always.
Yeah, you're such a busy.
Yes, my last book came out in October last year, The Road Trip, and that has been, thanks to all the readers, that has been doing wonderfully well. Just zooming off the shelves, it seems to have resonated with people very well. Keeping up with that has kept me busy. It's had a long tail, that book, taking me into the next year. And then I'm writing, obviously, next year's book. Sorry, editing next year's book. This year's book. Oh, gosh, I'm getting out of sync. So I am editing this year's book. It's nearly done. In fact, I got an email today. The final edit is just about due. That is happening very soon. And I am writing next year's book.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
No wonder I get myself confused.
I know. I'm in awe because my brain can only function with one at a time, I'm afraid.
Well, mostly mine can too. I have to shut the door on one and, open the door on the other.
Yeah. And the new one has got paradise in the title, hasn't it?
It has, yes.
What's that one called?
The Paradise Resort.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, set in remote Kimberley country in Western Australia, and a remote resort there. I just like the idea of a resort being a remote resort is very much like an island resort or a cruise ship. People are confined to. They can't come and go easily. And I also went behind the scenes with this one. So it's not so much focused on the people who are staying there. It's the people who work there.
Interesting.
What that's like for them. And I also I didn't realise it was going to happen, but a cause dear to my heart is the Royal Flying Doctor Service.
Yeah.
And the RFDS appear in this book several times.
Okay.
So I thought, that was an added bonus. Yeah, I didn't know that was going to happen. So yeah, that's lovely. So yes, Paradise Resort, and just did a cover reveal yesterday, and
I saw that.
Gorgeous. Yeah,
it looks amazing. Do you get much input, Trish, into your covers, or is it like everyone and it's just, we hope you love this as much as we do?
Yes, I get that standard. But I have never not loved a cover. They do such a fantastic job.
Brilliant.
From my publisher who commissions it and says, this is what I'm looking for, to the people who interpret that, the designers, and come up with the finished product. It's just amazing.
So they're probably really familiar with your brand and what your readers are attracted to by now too. Would that be right?
Yes. The covers, I think, are meant to be inviting. Here is a scene. I'm inviting you into it. And I think they do that very well.
Oh, that sounds great. I love that. A friend of mine travelled to the Kimberley a couple of years ago. Oh, no, last year actually. Yeah. And was telling me about the trip there, and it just sounded so beautiful. Yeah,
it's a very remote part of Australia, but if you ever get the chance to get there, it's just amazing.
And were you inspired to write that book after visiting that region, Trish?
Yes and no. So the road trip came from our very first trip there, when we did take a caravan and go by road up to the Kimberley, and then we've been back a couple of times since. So just gathering that feel for a place. So when this story came up, I thought that's the perfect setting for it. And two of the characters from the road trip are in this book. doesn't matter if you haven't read the road trip, but it's just that they were still holidaying in the region. And
Okay.
it just worked out. My daughter is my first reader.
Okay.
And when she finished the road trip, she said she loved it. Of course, what else would she
Lovely.
say? Thank you. But she said, Mum, I want to know what happens to Kathleen and Omar. And so I thought, oh, okay. I guess I had that in the back of my mind when I was starting to write this story, but they actually weren't in it at that point. But then it worked out that, yeah, they fit in it perfectly.
Okay.
And then as I started touring with the road trip, people started saying to me, we want to hear more about Omar and Kathleen. And I went, oh, that's lucky.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Yeah, that was coming from quite a few of your readers, that
Yeah.
same wish to find out more about those characters. You must have done a great job on portraying those characters in the road trip in that case.
I hope so.
Yeah. I want to get on to talk to you, Trish, about your process and everything in a minute, but you mentioned about the road trip being, I know it has done really well and it's had that long tail for you in terms of sales.
Yeah.
What do you put that down to about that particular book? Because that was book, what, number 18 for you, I think?
Yes, it is book number 18. And yes, I've always had a very dedicated readership and they've grown with me, even as I've changed genres, my readership has stuck. So I think that's something I would say to people who are in the early stages of writing. I think that's more to the voice than actual genre. Find your voice.
Yeah.
And then the genre is important too, but find your voice. But so I think, I don't know this one, whether it's something about, yes, my readership is building, but also it was obviously the topic that resonated with so many people who caravan or who never want to caravan, but caravan vicariously through the story. And that seems to be, certainly from readers, that's the feedback I'm getting. And their husbands are reading it because they're cackling so much and their husbands say, what are you reading? And I say, you've got to read this book.
Yeah.
So it's just been very popular and it's fantastic.
Has that been your highest selling book so far?
Yes.
It's amazing.
In that short space of time, yes.
Yeah. Over that time period,
Yeah.
Which is brilliant, Trish. Your first published book, I think, was 2012, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Was that Queen of the Road?
The Road, yes.
Yeah, for which you won that Australian Romance Writers Award.
Yeah, the Ruby Romance.
The
Writers
Ruby,
Australia.
the Ruby.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes,
That's right. Wow, that's amazing. And then, so since then, obviously, you have been building your readership. You've been really consistently putting books out there. You must have been doing more than a book a year then at some point.
Yes. So 2 of the rural romances, so I've got 7 rural romances. Sorry, 3 of them were my self-published books. So I had self-published and they were not, this is before ebooks.
Okay.
So they were paper books that were self-published and had a very small readership.
Yep.
So once my other books had become popular, my publisher said, look, I'd like to look at those ones that you wrote before. So we took them and just gave them another edit, obviously, changed the title, the cover, just freshened them up.
Yep.
Some things needed tweaking because technology had changed or whatever since I first wrote them. So then they became part of, so those 3. And then I'd been writing in the background a historical saga. And I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I think sometimes when my self-published books were being brought out, obviously I didn't have to write them. I just had to.
Yeah.
So that sort of went hand in hand then with me being able to have time to write my historical. So that's how I got a few extra. But I could not do 2 a year, not 2 from scratch.
I know. That's crazy, isn't it? I just have so much admiration for people that do that and they're able to put out those great quality books and keep and stay sane. Basically.
And some people can.
Yeah.
Some can, but
I've always been in awe of Rachel Johns with her ability to do that sort of thing. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And Trish, is it right that it obviously is right because it's in your bio, but you started off in your writing life writing for children? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I did. That was my desire at the time. I had met lots of children's authors or authors for adult, but I used to take the kids that I taught to writers' events and especially country kids, it's great to get them to things like that. So there used to be a really good, I can't remember what it was called. It was a huge writing event in Adelaide where lots of children's authors would come together, and we'd take the kids down and they would just move from room to room and have, sort of small group chats with authors, and the authors were fantastic. So great with their time and so on. I used to do that, and I thought, okay, so these people are writing books. And then we have a local festival here called the Canuet Luenda, which is a Cornish festival. And it's the biggest one outside of Cornwall. And we celebrate the copper mining heritage, which the Cornish contributed to, obviously. When I first moved to this area and I could see all this going on, and I was teaching sort of year 4, 5, which was about 9, 10-year-old. And there was so little for them to read about what to put it into context for kids. What was it like to live back in that? So I thought I could write a story that had a main character around their age, and I'd seen all these writers. Can't be that hard, can it? Yeah. So that's when I got the bug, and then I knew I needed help. So I did a children's writing course, and that was the very start. And,
okay. Did you publish children's books?
I did. Ended up writing 3. 2 of them were published by a small publisher in Victoria, but they didn't get very far. And then I did another one. And so I self-published that because by then I had self-published an adult book. So I knew the process. I had a great publisher who was excellent. Yeah, they're still very popular in my local area because they're like history. And so when we have the Cornish Festival, especially, the teachers have got that book to read to the kids.
Yeah, that's really lovely.
Yeah.
But that gave you the bug for writing.
It did. It did. Once like that, I was hooked after that.
Yeah. And then going back to winning the Ruby with Queen of the Road, because I think we were published in the same year. 2012 was my first book.
I just assumed you were already.
No.
Everybody I met, I went to that first Romance Writers Conference, and what a fantastic welcome and place to be. And then I just assumed everybody there was. And everybody else knew what they were doing.
That was my first year too. Yeah. Isn't that funny? And we were both writing rural romance. Yeah. I got into rural romance inadvertently because I just happened to write a story about a woman that lived on a horse property, and the publisher snapped it up as a rural romance.
Yeah. It's because it was just starting to boom then, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And prior to that, a year or so prior to that, didn't even have the name rural romance. There was no genre.
Exactly.
There were people writing it, but it didn't have a name attached. So.
Yeah, I think Rachel Treasure had already written a few by then. And
and Margaretta Osborne even.
Yes.
And Fleur MacDonald.
Yeah.
I think they had, and then, because I remember reading an article about them in Country Life or somewhere, and it said these women are talked about what they were writing, and I thought, that's what I'm writing. And then it said rural romance, and I went, hey, that's what I'm writing.
Yay, I have a label.
Yeah.
So what kind of, I'm not sure what your self-published books were about, but what drew you to that rural romance kind of genre?
Yes, so my self-published books did fit that rural romance genre. And what happened was, how they say to you while you're sending things off to publishers, don't sit around and wait, keep writing. I'm a member of essay writers, which I recommend everybody should. If you're keen on writing, you should be a part of your local writing community. But anyway, so that were always competitions, and I thought that's a good way to practice is to enter competitions. And so there was a competition for a adult story with a rural theme. And that was right up my alley because I'm a country girl. I grew up on a farm. I love the country, and I still live in the country, even though I'm in a town, it's a country. And so I thought, I just had this idea of somehow portraying country life through someone else's eyes. So I plucked this young woman from Sydney and married her off to a farmer in South Australia.
Yeah.
Spring seeding, a mouse plague, an old house, bad plumbing, everything I threw at her to see if she would stay. And so that I was writing, and then I realised, I checked the competition guidelines were for 3,000 words, and I was up to about 30 or something by that stage.
Right.
If I wasn't a short story writer.
Yeah.
So I kept going, and that was I submitted it to publishers, but I didn't have any luck. So that's when I published. And that became the first of my rural romances. I wrote 2 more after that were self-published, and then number 4 was picked up on HQ.
Oh, brilliant. Where you mentioned there about your characters coming to you, where does your inspiration for your stories first come from, do you think? Does it come from people you meet or stories you read or things you hear about? Where do your ideas come
It
from?
actually can be any of those things, and sometimes it's a combination. Like, I think setting a story in the Kimberley was going to happen because I just had this feeling whenever I was there. I thought, oh, there's something here I need to write about. I don't know what it is, but it's something. And then sometimes characters come along and you think, where would they fit? I don't know what sort of character is this, and all of these things just melt around in your head, and then sometimes the spark of an idea for my new book, The Paradise Resort. I don't know where I got the idea from, but I had imagined these two men who'd come from Indonesia and were in Australia on a working visa, and then something happened that they outstayed their visa. And so I thought, where could they be? And Kimberley's remote, and so, all of those things came together somehow. And then I had a character, Nelda, who is the manager of the resort. And so she's got to be a determined, strong woman. She's running a place that's very isolated. She's got a large number of staff, a large number of guests, and she has to be on the ball. So there's her. And then, of course, I had Kathleen and Omar. I thought they fit in. They're looking for work. They can work there.
Great.
And then another character, Beatrice, who I hadn't expected at all, she popped up. Like
I love that.
Yeah. And I
do
love
they
when they
pop
just say, hey, I want to be in your story. I'm like, I've already started my story.
Do those characters pop up for you as you're writing, Trish, or do you spend time thinking and planning things out before you start that first draft?
Usually before I start, I've got a rough idea of the story arc of a character and who they are. I try to get to know them. Luckily, I already knew Kathleen and Omar from the previous book. But Elder, I spent a lot of time thinking, what kind of woman is she? What's her background? What's brought her to this point? All of those sorts of things. It's getting to know a new person. Spend a lot of time doing that. And then, as I said, Beatrice was a surprise. So she bobbed up a bit later. So then I also had to backtrack and think, okay, if you're going to be in this story, how do you fit?
Yeah.
She did amazingly. Everything about her was just perfect. And I thought, obviously, she must have been there somewhere. But
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just find that whole process of what we hold in our subconscious just so interesting. And that when you are doing some kind of creative activity, whether it's writing or painting or whatever those other fabulously talented people do, it just is lurking there. And then if you allow yourself and if you give yourself the right conditions, it just allows it to be released.
I like the way Elizabeth Gilbert describes it in that she says, not the creator, I'm not sure exactly, but she says she channels it.
Yeah.
So these stories are out there in the universe and she is the conduit.
I love that.
Which comes through. And I think, maybe that's a bit ooh la la for me, but I get what she means.
Yeah.
Think, wow, I have no idea about that or anything. And yet here I am writing about this.
Writing a book about it. I love that story she tells about. The book was State of Wonder have you read that in Big Magic? And she talks about she had this idea for a story set in South America, and I'm not sure if her character was in the chemistry or the scientific area. Anyway, she had this whole kind of plot worked out in her head, but she never did anything with it.
Yeah.
And then she met Anne Patchett, and they got together for a coffee. They didn't know each other, and then they got together for a coffee, and then they became friends, and they were writing letters to each other. And then they met up one day, and they were talking about, oh, what are you writing? What are you writing? And Anne Patchett started telling her this story, and it was almost identical to the idea that she had but had never done anything with. I don't know, she might have jotted a few things down. I can't remember, or it was all in her head.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Gilbert had come up with the idea but hadn't done anything with it.
Yeah.
And they were oohing and ahhing over, this is so bizarre. And then Elizabeth Gilbert said, it's yours. I'm gifting it to you because I didn't grab the story when it was floating around for me. So it's obviously found another spot to land. But I love that whole idea.
Yeah. And they would, if they both wrote it, it would be a totally different story. Anyway, the premise might be the same, but the whole story would be quite different, wouldn't it?
Because you've got that. different voice and different
Yeah.
inputs and all that sort of thing. So what's your process when you're writing a first draft, Trish? Do you set a date, I'm going to start on this date, and then you sit down for a certain number of hours a day, or?
Yes, definitely. So when I'm in that mode, I usually start at the very start of February, and it's work. It's the hardest part, isn't it? Getting those, especially those early words onto the page. So I found because I was teaching full time, working full time when I was first writing and when I got my first contract with HQ, I thought I was at a stage where I could, I used to grab time wherever I could, early morning, late night, weekends, whenever I could earn away a bit of writing time. And I was very good with it, shucks of away and I write. And so then when I gave up teaching to write full time, I suddenly had all day and I was just procrastinating. It was terrible. So I treated it then as if I was going out to work. So I aimed for around about 8:00, between 8 and 8:30. And so, come into my office, having done whatever it was in the house that I think this is part of the day. If I was going out, do I need to hang out the washing or whatever?
Yeah.
Then I'm at work and I just keep going. I try and do 500 word sort of sprints. So I try to keep focused for 500 words and then I might have a coffee or go stretch my legs or go for a walk, do something. Because I think that also helps the creative process. Sometimes you just need to mull things over and then suddenly you sit down again and the words fly again. And so I just keep doing that. And some days that's quite quick and other days could take me all day. So that's what I do. And then I try to do admin in the afternoons. It doesn't always work.
And do you have the word count that you try to get to per day, or?
I always aimed at 2,000 and struggling with it now.
Isn't it funny? Yeah, I was the same. I used to do 2,000 a day pretty easily, actually, when I was on roll. And now I'm finding if I can get to 1,700 or 1,500, I'm really lucky.
Pat myself on the back. Yeah, so that's why I broke it down to 500 word lots because I just thought that's doable. And yeah, you're right. Sometimes I only get 3 of them done, so it's 1,500. But still, I might go a little bit further and think that's not so many I've had to do tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And do you find that when you're drafting that it's important to have that consistency of being there every day, showing up every day and staying in that kind of story space?
It is. And the tricky part with what I'm doing at the moment is, of course, edits sometimes land and then you've got to leave that story and go to the edits. So that drags you out of it. Then I find I have to revisit it. Obviously, when I come back to it, I feel like I not really waste the time because I don't think it's ever wasted revisiting, but I'm backtracking, making sure I've got everything right before I go on.
So you're reading over what you've got there.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a quick skim read. Sometimes it's just the chapter I'm up to because I tend to leave things, I'll just leave at the end of a sentence. If I've got to my word count, I sometimes write myself a little note though. Where was I going with that idea? Because that's the other thing I find sometimes I forget that these days, whereas I used to keep all that in my head and now I think, I'm not so sure. I think I've got too many. I was saying to someone yesterday, I think I need more RAM, random access memory.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
I could do with some of that too.
I do a lot of work with computers and I think that's what I need. And so I would jot myself a note, you were going to do this next or whatever, or the character was going here next or whatever. But yeah, so that's how I do it.
And then would it take you then about, 3 months to do a draft generally?
Oh, longer usually because life gets in the way. Edits and life. The wonderful thing about writing and working for yourself is that you can be flexible.
Yeah.
So sometimes I might work all weekend because I'm going to do something during the week or whatever, go somewhere, do something. And yes, whilst I'm flexible, but you still have to keep an eye on that word count. And it usually takes me more like 5 months, I reckon, because of the things in between. So it's not very long really, but then I like to allow myself time to just leave it then and come back after a little gap so that I can see it with fresh eyes.
It's so important, isn't it? Get that try and get some objectivity.
Yes.
Are you finding, because you have written so many books now, are you finding that the draft, that first draft, is cleaner perhaps than it might have been 5, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah, yes and no. I always get a surprise when I get my edits back because I think, darn it, I
thought this was fine.
I thought I was going to have all this tidied up, though my editor very kindly says that it is a very tidy manuscript, but I don't know. I say yes and no too because I think each time I'm writing in a fresh new way, and so not totally, obviously there's still a style or a genre to my story, but I'm learning. Maybe that's what it is. Every book I learn something new, and I might tackle a sentence in a different way or a different style. And so I think I've kind of come to a plateau where I still don't see some of the things I think, oh, that happened. But
You can't be objective about your own work. You can try,
No.
can't you, as to a certain extent, but it's impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need those outside eyes. And you said is your daughter your first reader?
Yes. My husband always was, but he's just got to the stage where he likes my books. He likes the historicals. He keeps saying, write more historical. But yes, he'll read them, but I get it to my daughter first because she's the one she'll pick up any mistakes if she can, spelling or whatever. Not that's too terrible. She'll often notice those, but it's like that feedback that I want to know more about these characters. And to me, that's something, do I need to address that in this book? Or is that something book or what? Why is she saying that? Those sort of questions are good. Although I don't know if she'd ever be brave enough to say, Mum, this is a load of rubbish.
It's good she hasn't said that to you yet anyway.
No, but she's always been in my corner and
That's so good.
Lovely.
And Trish, this is actually a question from a member of the Rights for Women community and a listener to the podcast.
Yes.
Who has recently found that she's been really stuck on basically over revising. She feels that she's had, I think, both her own kind of thoughts on the story plus feedback from other people. She's revised multiple times. And she said when she read it again the last time, she feels like she's revised the soul out of the story. Yeah. How do you approach the revision process and what kind of advice would you give to someone in that predicament?
It's difficult, isn't it? I had just been chatting myself with a beginning writer I call her more than a beginning writer. She's actually finished her book, which I think is great, amazing triumph because not many people actually do that. And she's the same. She's paid for an appraisal and feedback. And so now she's going back through it again. And so I haven't read her book. I've just been talking to her about it. But I think the thing is, if you can do too much, you can ask too many people. It's got to be your story and you've got to be happy with it. It's got to be your voice. And it depends what sort of feedback you're getting too. Obviously, if someone's just correcting your grammar or your punctuation or something like that, that's fair enough. And no shining story is ever going to be rejected by a publisher because it had bad punctuation or spelling. Yeah. They'll fix that. Yeah. So it's really more about what's the guts of this story and what is this author's voice. And I think, you've got to be true to that. Feeling that she's lost that, I'd be going back to those earlier drafts and seeing what was there and what did you take out that lost that. Yeah. Or I guess the other thing is that also when you've read something so many times and worked on it, so I just find I feel sick.
Why not? Take it away.
Take it away. I don't want to see it anymore. Maybe put it in your bottom drawer and write something else and then come to it.
And really come back after a really decent break. Yeah. Because like you said, you learn something from every book you write, don't you?
And every book you read.
True. Do you find that you are still reading books and thinking, oh, wow, that's a great way to describe that or whatever? Yes. Yeah, you're still learning from what you're reading.
And I say that to people. I learn from other writers and I'm not plagiarizing or copying. I'm just thinking, oh, wow, I really like the way they, as I said, constructed that sentence or looked at that scene, or there are different ways that sometimes writers do things. I hadn't thought of approaching it that way. So you're always learning.
Yeah.
And going to conferences and things like that too, you always learn.
Yeah. You're fairly regular at the RWA conferences?
Yes, I've had patches in between, but
Mm.
I just think I love to go for the camaraderie as
Yes.
well.
That's important, actually, and that's actually one of the things I'm going to talk to you about when we do our Substack bonus little
Okay.
episode is about the writing community. But I did want to ask you, because you have been doing this for quite a while, like myself,
Yes.
what do you think are the biggest changes that you've seen in the publishing industry? I guess we're mainly based in Australia, but how have you seen that change over the time since you were first published?
I think definitely the acceptance of Australian writers. There's Australian writers have been around for a while now, obviously, but if I think back to my childhood, I had hardly any Australian authors to read, and same into my young adulthood. It was mostly overseas authors whose books I loved. But when I started finding books written by Australian authors that had the beaten soul of my life in them, I liked them. And so I think when we were doing our rural romances, I think that was just a really jump in the Australian publishing industry that said, readers want these, Australian readers want, even overseas readers want these books. But yeah, so I think that was a bit of a leap that happened just as you and I got there.
Yeah, fortunately.
In fact, around that time, several publishers said it's what kept them afloat.
Okay.
Was
Yeah.
rural romance was a bit of a downturn there for a while, and rural romance was really booming.
Yeah.
And the readers of rural romance are such solid, staunch readers. They read a book, they want one, they want the next one, they want the next one, they want the next one. And yeah, that was a real boom, I think.
Yeah.
And other changes, I guess technology has changed things, the way we do things. I was on the cusp of posting a manuscript, and then it, changed to email and so on. But also AI, of course, in more recent times has certainly made us think about what we do and how we do it. Yeah.
Is that something that you've been grappling with? I know it's such a big topic in the writing community, and just this morning I saw Carolyn Overington had a post about a winner of a big short story competition who's been accused, not here in Australia, but I think it's I don't know if it's the Commonwealth short story, it's one of or Caribbean or something. Anyway, won the prize, but then people have come up and said, critics, oh, that was written by AI. And the judging panel has said there's no way that we can prove it. We just have to trust that the writers have abided by the rules, which say no AI. But it's such a fraught space now, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I was first shocked into it when I discovered that my books had been stolen by Meta to feed their training machines for AI. And so that was like fairly sickening to me to think, and so many, everybody's, I'm not alone, yours probably have been too. That's, to me, apart from the fact that I wouldn't have given my permission, it's stealing. And it's as if someone's stolen my car or my furniture. In fact, it's more because they've stolen a creative part of me, and I really don't like that. I think I'm not totally against AI as such, because I use AI, not to write my books, obviously, but to do research, and we use it when we're shopping. It's all around us. It's just how it's used and how governments are going to police that. There was talk of changing copyright rules. I don't think we need to change the copyright rule because they even fit AI, I think. I don't know what the answers are. Nobody does, I don't think. But
no, I don't think so. It's going to be a kind of watch this space, isn't it, at the moment?
But I know that my publisher, even for the construction of the covers, no AI is involved.
Okay.
Obviously, when you're doing that, there's photoshopping and things like fiddling with things, but they won't take any image that is AI created. And
it's up to the publishers, really, a part of it, isn't it, to take those stands and be, in terms of protecting their authors and their illustrators and their cover designers and all those people. Trish, we've talked a little bit around this idea that you've written in different genres, so rural romance, historical, you write contemporary adventure, almost stories now. And
my publisher called it the other day, what did she say? Triplet.
Triplet. Oh, I like that. Yeah. And like everyone, and you know what? Great, because everyone wants to, not everyone, but a lot of people want to escape, don't they? So that
Yes.
idea of you're escaping into a book, but you're also escaping off on a trip, fabulous trip somewhere. So you've really hit the nail on the head there, I think. But at each of those points where you have gone in a different direction or pivoted, I believe is the current phrase, has that been more a deliberate decision, or has it been more like, oh, I have this idea for a story, but it's not in the genre that I have been writing in? How has that happened for you?
Yeah, definitely. So the historical and the rural romance were obviously two very different genres, and that just happened. I just had these ideas for historicals. I think my children's books were historical, and I love history, so I think that was a natural progression that I wanted to do that. But I also was enjoying the rural romance. But then my first women's fiction or women-centered fiction, whatever they're called, I said to my publisher, I've got this idea for a book, but it doesn't fit with the other. And so I gave her a pretty good outline and synopsis, and she said, write it and show it to me and see what happens.
Okay.
And so that was Table for Eight. And
Yes.
I didn't do it very well. It was a big learning curve for me. I had to learn a lot about writing in that style, but I still think I kept my voice in that. It was just a different, and I don't even know how to describe the difference really, but it's just something that I've progressed through this, writing that style of story. And so I just, I never thought that I would give up on the rural romance, but because I've been writing in this way, and now I love the idea of having characters that are in the over 50, over 60, over 70 age group.
Yeah.
So maybe it's because as I got older, but I came across Liz Bursky's books years ago, and I loved them because the characters were around my age, and I was reading about young people and not that rural romance has to be about young people. It doesn't. You can write romance for all ages, but that tended to be the way it was. And even in those stories, I always had other characters who are older in them. So I think I've always written across genres, but this way ages. But this I like this in that I'm more senior heavy, and there are some younger people in the story as well.
It's been a natural progression.
And I like exploring things that affect. I think one of the other things was whenever I read a book where there was someone my age in it, she was someone's grandmother with one foot in the grave and couldn't remember her own name. And I used to think, that's a terrible portrayal.
Yeah, I know. It's such a
at our time of life. And I just think, I'm out there doing things. I'm busy. I've got a life. And so I wanted to portray people living life, doing that. We've got a few more aches and pains, but
we're still kicking.
We're still kicking.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that I like about writing them is to and the things that affect us at our age. What are the things we're interested in? Where are we going? What are we doing? Those sorts of.
And of course, women of a certain age are the biggest reading group out there. So
yes,
great. You've got the audience there, and your old audience probably coming with you, and then you're probably picking up new readers because of writing characters in that age group. A bit of that, oh God, what if I sit down and I don't know what to write? Is that the same for you?
I think that's probably in there too.
Yeah.
Just even book 19 is all but finished, but there's still that fear of the blank page. What am I going to put on the next one? I've always got ideas. Too many ideas for the stories, but it's which one speaks to me at the time and that I'm prepared to spend a year of my life immersing myself into. You've got to love the characters yourself, or at least feel for the characters. Some of them aren't really very lovable, but you've got to be able to put yourself in that situation and stick with it.
And what would you say has been the most memorable moments that you've had as a published author?
Oh, gosh. Certainly winning the Ruby was, if I start with the tiny things, to me they're tiny, is when you first get that book in your hand, and it doesn't matter which number book it is, it's still just so exciting to open that box and get your book. So that's always happens. And then winning the Ruby. But I feel really terrible, but prior to that, I had not heard of RWA. I thought it was a hoax. And when I got the email to say you've been shortlisted, because back then your publisher actually submitted
That's right.
books, and I didn't know that my book had been submitted. So it was an email that I got to say, I've been shortlisted for this award. And I thought, what is this? So I quickly found out more. I thought, oh, I better belong to this organisation then if they very kindly nominated me for this award. And then I went, because I was nominated, I thought, shortlisted, I will go to, and that first one was that I went to was in Fremantle.
That's right.
So everything about that, I can still see it so clearly. It was such a special time. And then, I think there've been a few along the way with my publisher. One of the things I would say to people is don't forget to celebrate those milestones and things. And my publisher is very good at doing that. And so just recently, because I'd made another milestone with sales, they took me to Sydney to HQ and we had a special celebration with everybody there.
Brilliant.
And they organised the most gorgeous cake.
Oh, fantastic.
It was like a little caravan. And,
That's right. I remember seeing it on Insta.
Yeah, a very special moment.
And tell us what that milestone was, Trish, because that was a big one.
30,000 books sold. So
amazing.
Thank you, everybody.
For the road trip.
Got a book.
Yeah.
Road trip.
That's brilliant. Congratulations. Now, we are going to get on to some questions for the Substack supporters, but you've very kindly mentioned a few things as advice for people out there who are in those earlier stages of writing. Is there any kind of one thing that you think is a really important thing for them to keep front and centre in terms of their writing?
If I had to pick one thing, I think it would be, and we touched on it with the person that you said was editing, to remember that you are unique and that you have your voice. No one else does. AI doesn't have it. Only you has it. And so I think is to hang on to that and find that, whatever it is, and try and make sure that's in your story, that it's not it's a 3D story, not a flat story. And it's got an essence of yourself in it. Let yourself be in the story. Not as a character, obviously. It's hard to explain. I guess it's like a brand in a way. If you would talked about my books, they are described as warm, witty, wise.
Yeah.
I always chuckle at the wise.
But take that.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
So, yes, so that is my voice. It's coming through those stories. And so to someone who's writing, and when you're writing your first draft, you don't probably know what that is, but I think if you keep writing, you'll hear it yourself, you'll see it yourself, you'll know when something isn't sounding like you. And so that's what's happened with that person who's redrafted. It's not sounding like her anymore.
That's great advice. All right, we're going to finish this section off with a fast four. So 4 being writes for women. Just going to throw something at you and you give me a quick response. What was the job you would be doing now, do you think, if you weren't a writer?
I think I'd be retired. I'm coming up to my 70th birthday, so I think I'd be retired. But if I wasn't that age, I would still be teaching. I love teaching.
Fantastic. What's the best time of day for you to write?
Mornings, definitely. Earlier the better. But yeah, mornings.
When your brain's fresh. What's a book that you've read that you wish you'd written?
Oh, this is always a hard one. And so many great books. So I'll just pick one that I've read that I really enjoyed recently, and that would be, there's so many. I feel bad picking one out. I really enjoyed Lessons in Chemistry. I thought that was a really interesting way to write a book about a period of history and about women's lives.
Agree. Have you got a most embarrassing writing related moment?
Oh, probably lots, but I can't think of one. It's embarrassing. Oh, yes. Yes, I can think of one.
Would you share?
I was doing a book talk and it must have been about my historical. So this was a long time ago. And so then it was question time. People asked me questions. And this woman asked me if I thought of myself, now I'll be able to remember the name. But anyway, she said this famous name of a person. And I thought, oh, this person is very famous. I am not putting myself in the same. So I blathered on about, I don't think my stories are the same and la la. And it wasn't until I got in the car to drive home that I realised there was actually a painter that he had. So he was saying my stories aren't like their stories, but I had in my head they were a famous Australian writer. That was an Australian painter. And I think what she was alluding to was the landscape that I painted a picture with my stories. But, I felt my cheeks burned all the way home.
Oh, no.
Thought I was an idiot.
Probably the end of a very long day, I'm sure, Trish.
I'm sure.
All right, before we get on to the Substack questions, Trish, people can find you on Instagram and Facebook,
Yes.
is that right?
Facebook, yes. And I have a regular newsletter as well.
They can sign up for that on your website?
They can sign up on my website or on Facebook, yes.
Yep. And that's triciastringer.com. Okay.
Either way. Either one works, yes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Trish.